Hello everyone and welcome to episode 18 of the Melbourne Traditionalists. I'm Mark Moncrief from the Melbourne Traditionalists and I have with me David Hiscock from XYZ. How are you, David?
Very good, Mark. If the constant stream of roadworks here in Melbourne isn't bad enough, I've got to say, sometimes it feels like I've got non-stop roadworks from my house to my work. Apparently yesterday the trams were on strike as well. I reckon the tram drivers figured that, hey, we see all this money being spent on the roadworks, and where are they getting that money? They're just borrowing it. We want some of that too. I reckon that's what was going on.
Well, I reckon that's what the police and the fire brigade reckon as well.
I reckon, yeah. Everybody's like,
hey, they're driving around seeing all this money being spent.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't it being spent on us?
Yeah, we're infrastructure. You can borrow money to pay us, yeah.
And that's exactly right. It's all being borrowed, isn't it?
Yeah. Never going to be paid back.
Now, maybe I shouldn't mention this on air, but you've been taking some of my articles and putting them on XYZ.
Yeah, I've been loving them. Yeah,
which has really been good.
Yeah, you just summarise things that we don't talk about, or at least not as much. And you write really efficiently, and so I've been really enjoying them, and they're making a really good addition. It's been great.
So my question, I've got two questions.
Yes.
First of all, my last article, which has just gone up today,
yes,
on full employment or history of full employment, you mutilated it.
Oh,
you changed it.
Yeah, I did a little bit of
editing. Beautiful, perfect piece of art.
Yeah, you've got to.
And you added 2 sentences to it.
Oh.
It's an abomination.
Yeah, it's. I just checked that. It needed it.
Yeah, it did, but I'm not going to... That's not working, is it? That's not on. And the second is that none of my checks have come through.
Oh.
I got into dissident politics so that I could make big bucks. I'm sure that's why you got into it as well.
Yeah, how am I going to have that holiday in Bermuda? if I pay everybody, it all goes on wine and hookers.
Well, you got to spend your money on something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, we were going to prove how modern and up to date we are by reviewing a movie from 2005, V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Now, just before we went on air, you asked the question, how old is Natalie Portman?
She's 38.
She's 38.
Wow.
She was born in 1981.
Padme, she's getting on.
Well, I mean, that means that she was like 18 when the original Star Wars movies came out. Not the original,
the second batch, which tells me how old are those original? Those how old is that second batch now? Wow.
Yeah, well, they're 20 years old.
Yeah, gee.
Yeah. Yeah, you're old. I'm young, but you're old.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Now, I'm looking at Infogalactic, which is the right-wing alternative to Wikipedia, set up by Vox Day. And it's about 90% as good as Wikipedia. It's not 100%. But it says here, Natalie Portman, born Natalie Hershig.
Oh, right.
Which is Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
are you saying that she changed her last name to fit in with the host society that she's living in?
Yes, yes. But actually, you would think that her name was really Portman.
Yeah, I actually didn't realise.
No. And I only found out in the last year that she was Jewish, and I was actually quite surprised. But of course, a lot of actors are Jewish. And it's actually quite amazing how many are Jewish or part Jewish.
It's one of those ones where sometimes you find out in retrospect why you don't find somebody attractive as well. It's just, she's always had this weird kind of look about her, which I'm like, no interest, just, yeah.
Well, she's quite petite, and not every guy likes petite.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with petite. It's just, I don't know, maybe it's the fact that she was Padme. It's just weird, yeah.
But what is amazing to me is that she seems so much older. I mean, she didn't say old, but I thought she was in her 20s, and she was actually still a teenager when she was making those movies. Now, I'm looking... Oh, there we go. Don Adams, who was
Maxwell Smart.
That's right. He was Maxwell Smart in Get Smart. He served in the Marines during World War II. He actually served on Guadalcanal. But half Jewish.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Which you wouldn't expect.
I knew that.
You knew that?
Yeah, I knew that. I used to watch Inspector Gadget as a kid, and he did the voice for Inspector Gadget as well, the cartoon. And he's got one of my famous, Maxwell Smart has one of my famous sayings. And it's something I actually just sometimes remind myself of this when I'm in a bad situation. There's a bit where Maxwell Smart, as usual, he's been a bumbling idiot and he's got them all into trouble. So himself, 99, and the chief are all up against a wall facing a firing squad. And they're about to be shot. And Maxwell just says to 99 and the chief, says, "Well, we're not dead yet." So then he just does something silly. There's just something they get out of it, and they keep going. So it's something to keep in mind. We're not dead yet.
Well, that's quite true.
Yeah.
That's quite true. And I must admit that the defeatism really pisses me off.
Yeah.
This country's gone, that country's gone.
I actually make a I distinguish between defeatism and the black pill. Like, I think the black pill is important because it helps you understand, look, the system is actually, it's not even dying, it's dead. But it's defeatism is different. It's like that's saying we can't do anything about it.
Yeah. And the black pill, you taste the black pill.
Yeah.
You taste the bitterness of it,
Yes.
and then you spit it out.
Yeah.
You don't swallow it.
Yeah.
All right? The red pill you do, but the black pill you don't. All right? You can swallow white pills.
Yes.
Yeah. White pills are important.
Yeah.
Now, our movie.
Yes.
The movie that we're actually going to talk about is V for Vendetta. And we saw it this year. I hadn't seen it before this year. You borrowed it off me and you watched it.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
No.
You did not enjoy it?
I thought it was a terrible movie.
Yes?
It just the dialogue I thought was atrocious.
Yes.
They didn't seem to have very high production values.
Yes.
And its underlying assumptions were just too obvious.
Yep.
At least with Joker, which we reviewed, it's like you had to perceive the underlying assumptions of the writers. With this one, they just put it in your face. There's no filter. It's like I was watching a sermon.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I found it interesting to watch with respect to being able to analyze what they're actually trying to say to us. And you can also see some of the contradictions, and like Joker, you can see how the message can be flipped as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the background to V for Vendetta is that it was originally a comic.
Right.
It was originally a graphic novel, as they call it, by Alan Moore. He's quite a left-wing writer. And he also did... I have the image in my mind, and I can't think of the name of it.
Boogie Nights.
Thank you for making my job harder. The Watchmen.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, which I actually think is much better. I actually quite like The Watchmen. The movie, I haven't read the graphic novel.
Okay.
But he's, as I said, he's very left-wing, and his premise was that this is how the left wing viewed Thatcher's England.
Yes.
So that the government are fascist, the government are, the only reason they haven't broken down their door is because, I don't know, because they really should have, and they're just setting up their concentration camps, and you'll be in them soon, and blah, blah, blah. So that's the background. And that has now, was made into a movie, V for Vendetta. And it takes a lot of those ideas as well. Now, what we also have to remember is that the movie was directed by the Wachowski brothers.
Right. The same guys who made The Matrix.
Who made The Matrix.
And who are now the sisters.
That's exactly right, yes. So about 2 years after this movie was made, one of the brothers said, hey, you know what? I've always thought I was a woman. Mm. And then about 5 years after that, the other brother said, hey, me too.
Yeah.
So now they're the Wachowski sisters. But you will notice that The Matrix, the first Matrix, is brilliant. But they haven't made any other brilliant movies.
Oh,
you're going to disagree?
I'm going to disagree with you. Yeah, I know we're supposed to be talking about V for Vendetta. At the time, I hated number 2 and 3 of The Matrix. But going back and rewatching, I thought that they were brilliant because I found it interesting that once Neo takes the red pill, you think that's it. But no, then you start to understand that the system has a system of control.
Yes.
And that, like, you're not the first person to have done this, and there are lots of people who've come before you who've been trying to break out of the cycle. And they're always finding smarter and smarter ways to keep you just going back into the cycle. And the decisions that you make, you think are helping, but really they're bolstering the system. And then and they're always making you choose between like your friends and what's right, all that sort of stuff. I found that brilliant, and I found it because I found it as someone who's been a few years into the red pill on race. I found that fascinating because there's a real rush when you first take the red pill, and then afterwards it's like, oh wow, I thought everyone was going to come along, and now I'm like, okay, now it's just me and like these other people, and you know, we're still waiting for everybody to come along.
No, good point. And I do think that the second and third movies are not as bad as people say, but I don't think they're brilliant like the first movie.
Well, the thing is, you're never going to have another red pill moment.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, you can't beat that scene where Neo wakes up, and you can't beat the scene where he stops the bullets. After that, you can only escalate. And so from a movie perspective, it's never going to be as good.
The scene that I always remember in the trilogy is when the guy starts eating the steak. When he takes the blue pill.
Yep.
And he's like, I know this isn't real, but it's so good.
Yeah.
That's the part. That's the scene that's always stuck in my mind. Yeah. Now, V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
We should talk about that.
We keep preambling off it, don't we? Yeah.
The production values.
Yeah.
There are scenes there where you can see
the string.
you know it's in a studio.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a real place at all. And there are so many scenes like that where it feels like exactly what it is. It's a studio. Actually, I think the acting's pretty good.
Okay.
And I think Hugo Weaving, who's V for Vendetta, he's quite good.
Okay. Right.
Now, some people would disagree. Some people would say, "Oh, it's very wooden," but that's exactly what he should be like.
Okay.
And his character is the most fascinating thing in the movie, or the most fascinating character, because he actually does have an arc. He actually progresses, and there are choices that he makes that are actually really surprising, but make sense when you think about the character.
Like what?
The way he treats Natalie Portman's character, how he befriends her, and then he betrays her, and then he says, you passed the test.
Yes. So when we're talking about betraying her, like, he basically imprisons her.
That's right. He pretends that she has been imprisoned, that she has been captured by the government.
Yes. And
he imprisons her. But actually she can leave any time she wants. But he tricks her into thinking that she can't, that she's in the depth of this totalitarian state. And he actually tortures her and he interrogates her, and he's a real bastard. But it actually makes sense.
How so?
Because he's
a psychopath.
He is a psychopath, but in the story, the system has made him into a psychopath.
Okay.
But he also needs to know that she's really on his side, that she's really loyal.
But that's how psychopaths think, though.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, and that's why it makes sense for him to do that.
So he thinks like a psychopath.
Because he is a psychopath.
He thinks if I imprison this girl, and if I imprison this girl, make her think that it's the government doing it to her, get her to the point of breaking, but get her to side with me, then I'll know that she's really on my side. Then I'll let her go and tell her it was all just a big joke, and everything will be fine. That's how psychopaths think.
But it wasn't a big joke. It wasn't a joke. It was deadly serious.
Yeah.
But the other characters, I don't know. I don't know how much sense they make.
Well, they were caricatures.
Well, and many of them were caricatures.
Yeah. Like
the government minister, he's a caricature. You know, so many of the characters are caricatures.
Yeah. Stephen Fry, like the homosexual who just wants to like live a free life, but this terrible society won't let him.
They raid him because he has the last copy of the Quran in England.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And he has it. The only reason he has it is because of its beauty.
Yes, maybe he has a fetish for being thrown off buildings. Like that is just an example of just the stupidity of the assumptions that were just on full display.
Yeah.
Which meant that I couldn't watch the movie without wanting to yell.
Yeah.
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 Another one of those just they didn't think this one through, like how like Natalie Portman starts off with a full head of hair.
Yes.
And she has her head shaved.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I think she's in prison for like 6 months.
Yeah, it's a long time. Yeah.
Her hair doesn't grow back in the movie.
Well, I'd imagine that things like that don't need to happen on screen, you know, where she's having her head shaved every month or whatever.
It's like movies 101. If you want to show the progression of time, show how somebody's hair is growing. Instead, like with Natalie Portman, who even like when she's dressed up properly to look like a beautiful white woman, there's still not something right about her. Then
it is true. In this movie, there is always something not right about her.
Yeah. Then they shave her head, and it's just awful. I'll never. Whenever I think of her now, I'll think of her with the shaved head.
Yeah. And the other thing is that V for Vendetta is he's a magical creature. Whenever he is attacked, he can just vanish. There's no explanation for how he does this. He just does it.
Oh, yes. He's got superpowers. He's actually a superhero.
And he can... his fighting abilities are unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah.
So you're saying he's a superhero?
Well, yeah, he must be a superhero because he just moves faster. Like there's that scene where there's a whole like special operations squad, like with guns. And he just gets a knife and just goes bang, 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 and none of them can lay a finger on him. It's just, it's silly.
Now on IMDb, it has a rating of 8.2 out of 10.
Oh,
that is an absurdly high score,
that's,
even by IMDb standards.
This is one of those movies which I do remember people that I know that I knew went and watched the movie and they all thought it was a great movie. And like these are people who really should have known better. Like these are people who introduced me to great movies.
Yeah.
And then they thought V for Vendetta was a good movie. And watching it now, I'm like, well, they clearly had political bias when they saw this movie because it's terrible. It really is just an awful movie.
There is a Scottish guy who goes by the name Critical Drinker.
Oh, yes, I love him.
He does great stuff.
Yes.
His review of Joker could not be more different to ours. He said it's probably the best movie of the year.
Yeah, right.
So even good people who usually do good work can
give Drinker a few more years. He's not quite red pilled. Like he's
that's true. There are a few things where he's not. Yeah. He's not. There's some. He's taken some red pills.
Yeah. I think he's a guy who just never took the blue pill.
Yeah. Maybe you're right there. Maybe you're right.
Yeah. I'm just trying to remember some of the other just awful moments in this film. Like
there are a lot of awful moments.
The way
you really just have to it's one of those movies where you can't think. It says to you, hey, this is a thinking movie, but that's a trick.
Yes.
The more you think, the less sense it makes.
Absolutely. Like the left are obsessed with this idea that the right have this incredible power through the media. So they
they do, don't they?
So they present the main TV presenter as the British equivalent of Fox News. They have it's as if the BBC wasn't full of globalists and SJWs and people of colour hell bent on destroying everything that British civilization has built up over the last 5,000 years, and they're obsessed. They've got the same obsession that the writer of that show with the ladies in the red outfits. The Handmaid's Tale. They've got this horrible fear that one day all these Christians and conservatives are going to wake up and realise that the only way that we're ever going to get power is if we overthrow the state and install our own. And so they're doing everything they can to prevent that. And so they make movies about it and how horrible it would be. Hence the Stephen Fry character. And, like, we're all supposed to empathise with Stephen Fry.
As a comedy, you probably should watch it.
Yes, yeah. Watching Stephen Fry, like, as that character reminded me of several scenes that he did when he was doing A Little Fry and Laurie. Yeah. Because sometimes he would play a homosexual character, and it was very, very funny. There's this, and so seeing him there, all I could see was the comedian sort of lampooning the whole thing, and it amazed me that because there was a scene in Fry and Laurie where he pretends to be a postmodern professor, and so he puts together all these words that are completely juxtaposed and talks about how fascinating it is, and so he's completely sending up the whole thing. Yet he's in a movie where surely when he reads the script of this thing, he's like, come on, guys. Nobody's going to believe this shit. And as well, it just... going back to the TV presenter, in the movie... We should tell people, yes, we're doing spoilers. He gets killed in the shower. And so there's this... The left wing really have this obsession with violence. They have... And you see it come out in their writing. Like you see it in their art. There's this obsession with darkness and ugliness. Yes. And the violence that you get in their movies is really... It's quite graphic, and you can tell they're basically just writing about what they want to do. Yes. Yeah. And that's the impression I got when they killed this guy and a number of the other people. It's like, come on, you're basically just writing out all your dark fantasies here.
And I think that's what the original comic was about. About writing his dark fantasies. Right. And, they published it, and then they decided, hey, let's make a movie of it.
Yeah. And so... I do find it interesting that, like, Antifa, for example, they've taken on the mask. Because, like Joker, I think the movie was designed to be basically propaganda and just inspiration for young university students who are already being brainwashed in that world. And just they're in those crucial years when their critical faculties are kind of switched off and they're open to this kind of suggestion, saying, okay, this is a path that you can go down. Yeah. It's what it is. It's pure propaganda. Yeah.
Now, what would you rate it out of 10?
1.
1?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Actually, no, I'm going to have to give it 2 because I can't give... the worst movie I've ever seen is The Last Jedi.
And it has to retain its position in last place.
That's it. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I would give this a 4 out of 10. On an IMBD, I would rate it 6.
Okay.
Because IMBD is weighted, and practically nothing is under 5.
Okay. Right.
So I would give it a 6 on IMBD, but out of 10, I'd give it 4.
Okay. I'd be interested to know its Rotten Tomatoes score. Are we able to look that up briefly?
Well, we can have a look.
Yeah.
We have a computer here.
Because I love the Rotten Tomatoes scores are brilliant, both because they show the difference in percentage ranking between the critics and the audience. Generally, like left-wing movies get high critic ratings and low audience movies. Movies that don't try to put out a political agenda get high audience and low critics. But you also see the numbers. You see thousands of audience votes, but you see dozens quite often of the critics' votes.
Yeah.
And the whole point of this is that the critics are a tiny minority of people who are the gatekeepers. But at the same time, they're trying to gaslight us into thinking that they're really the majority, and the people who are opposed to this globalist agenda are just the fringe. Here we are, Rotten Tomatoes.
Just waiting for it to come up.
I like the typing. It's like, you know, it's like the.
I only type with one hand.
Yeah.
So I'm very fast with one hand, but
Okay. Oh, is it coming up?
Yeah, it's very slow, isn't it?
If anybody's listening, just talk amongst yourselves. I can't go on enough about how bad Natalie Portman looks in short hair. Like it was awful.
It's not her most attractive look, is it? No.
And again, I think they chose her outfit deliberately because they had her in this kind of long dress where, and these stockings that just were terrible. And if we're talking about like her imprisonment, the letter that she reads, which is written by a lesbian who's been put in the same prison as her,
yes,
was quite interesting because like she's afterwards when she gets locked out and she's told that the whole thing was a lie, B tells her, the letter was real though, that was actually a real letter. But again, like it's one of those ones where it's just tugging on the heartstrings. It's tugging on the SJW heartstrings. It's like, please, won't somebody think of the lesbians? It's talking about the story about this girl who is a lesbian and the society in which she lives won't tolerate her being a lesbian, and her family doesn't like it. And she keeps telling stories about how she fell in love with this girl. But then she fell in love with this girl. And then she fell in love with this girl. It's really, no, you're just a massive slut.
So,
oh wow!
Here we have, this is Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
V for Vendetta, 72% tomato meter.
Yeah.
So 247 critics.
Yeah.
90% audience score.
Yeah. Okay.
903,000.
Wow. Okay. Well, it goes against my outlining of how things are designed.
Well, I mean, there's got to be at least 903,000 leftists out there.
Maybe they've all watched it. Yeah. Maybe even.
But also, if you put your brain away, it's actually, the individual scenes are quite good. There's a lot of action in it.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it is.
It's a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. Maybe it has something to do like I'm still trying to defend my original position here. Maybe because we've seen a big reaction in the last few years.
I agree with you. It's not as good a movie as that. I think that's just ridiculous that those kinds of ratings.
I get what I'm saying is if it came out today, you've got a much more organised resistance, ironically, to all this sort of thing. And so people will be like, stop putting overt political messages in our movies, thumbs down. And so it might get a much lower tomato meter rating now.
Yeah. Now, David, where can people find out more about you?
Come to the XYZ, xyz.net.au. Visit us on Gab, and we also have a Telegram account. Get off Facebook. We are on Facebook. We stay there for normie outreach, but get off it because the clamps are coming down. Like, I'm just getting ban after ban after ban.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my advice with that.
And to find out more of my thinking, you can come to Upon Hope. Just type that into your favourite search engine and you'll find me. Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
and
you.
Have a good day.
Been a pleasure.